is upon us when all must choose which side we are on. We cannot win this fight. I will not hide. While others fight our battles for us! They are my friends. Will you follow me one last time? The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, December 17th. Experience it in IMAX 3D.
And welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the three films of December 19th, 2014, a.k.a. the three films that come out before Christmas, a.k.a. the penultimate weekend of 2014. And we're starting off with, of course, the biggest new release of the weekend, which was, of course, The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, the last part of Peter Jackson's Hobbit trilogy, the last big blockbuster of the year, the conclusion of the trilogy, the prequel trilogy to The Lord of the Rings, and, let's just get into it. Bilbo and Company, Bilbo Baggins, he's only 3 feet tall. Bilbo and Company are forced to, I don't know what happened there. Bilbo and Company are forced to engage in a war against an array of combatants and keep the terrifying Smaug from acquiring a kingdom of treasure and obliterating all of Middle-earth. Yeah, about the Smaug, he's only in the first 10 minutes of this movie. I'm not even kidding. The big thing they were setting up at the end of the Desolation of Smaug. We'll touch on that a little bit later on, because, yeah, I just gave you a big spoil here, but let's talk about the two previous movies. Since I never gave them proper reviews the first time I saw these movies, I saw this during a big Hobbit marathon at the movie theater. I'd never seen the other two Hobbit movies on the big screen. I mean, I enjoyed both of those movies very much, and, you know, sitting in there for 9 hours straight, I mean, yeah, it was a, yeah, it was a big thing where it's just kind of like, it felt like, I had seen the Dark Knight trilogy in theaters 2 years before that, and then I'd been to the midnight screenings before, but yeah, this was a pretty big deal for me, seeing this, because I didn't see the Lord of the Rings movies on the big screen the first time around, so I figure, hey, why miss out on an opportunity to do that? Same thing with the Star Wars prequels, and then I saw the prequels, and they weren't that good, but at least the Hobbit prequels are better than the Star Wars prequels. I will stick by that till the day I die, but, I mean, like I said, the last movie, The Desolation of Smaug, I think is the best of the prequels overall. I thought it was a much better, more competently made movie, a more action-packed movie, a lot more action, better character development in that sense that something big was coming with the next film, with him setting up Smaug, and the big thing rounds up within the first 12 minutes of the movie. The whole sequence that they set up at the end of this movie takes up 12 minutes. After that happens, Smaug is nowhere to be found for the rest of the movie, and it's just kind of like, what was the point about it, taking that out of there and setting it up for this? I mean, you could have just ended the movie with that. I mean, that could have just been the climax, but I get the feeling that that scene in particular was supposed to be for the conclusion of the original plans for this, because this was supposed to be, keep in mind, this was supposed to be a two-part film, a two-part prequel. I think when Guillermo del Toro was still the director of this, but then when Peter Jackson came on board, they gave him a third film, and then they had to make another film out of it, but it still was really odd for them to do that. Just kind of like, what was the point of that? Like, what was the point of that overall? And don't get me wrong, it's a great action sequence, but no reason at all to have that just be the beginning of the movie. And like I said, Smaug never comes back after that. It's kind of like, what's the point, man? Like, what's the point of this? But anyway, the rest of the movie overall really is good. And I will admit, this is about as good, if not a little bit better, than Desolation of Smaug. I think the cast, once again, works very well. Martin Freeman, Richard Armitage, Ian McKellen, Orlando Bloom, Benedict Cumberbatch. Very strong cast overall. This one had a lot of action all over the place, especially in the last hour, which, kind of like with Return of the King, are long battle sequences, and all really good battle sequences. I mean, the Return of the King, and these movies are known for having great action sequences, even if it makes up the whole crux of the movie in general. I think the story overall works really well. We're invested in what's going on, and we're not just feeling like we're wasting our time watching this happen overall. The editing and pacing overall was pretty good, and the film does cap off at a good runtime. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't feel like a waste. There are problems with the movie overall. For one thing, the action sequences, while they are good, do go on a little bit too long for their own good. Specifically, the final battle between Thorin and Azog. And it does one of those stupid cliches where you think, somebody is dead, and then they come back as one last fight as a jump scare. And it's just kind of like, I mean, I would think this movie would be better than that. And speaking of cliches, I hate the character of Alfred, man. I hated this character so much. Like, I don't care if he was supposed to be the comic relief who's greedy and cares about only himself. He's a terrible character, and the fact that he gets off scot-free and doesn't die is complete and utter bullshit. But another thing that did really bug me about this movie was that you have all these different armies fighting, and the dwarves are just doing absolutely nothing. They don't even try to defend their home. None of the armies bothered to go after them when they clearly could have. You could have made the argument that they were fighting the other armies, but there are literal scenes where they're not doing a damn thing is happening at the Lonely Mountain that they're on. It's just like, I mean, yeah, and the CG overall is really good, but man, Kate Blanchett's Galadriel, I think that's how you say it. She looks like a really bad emo chick. For somebody who's known for making great visual epics like Peter Jackson, I expect a whole lot more from that, which does lead me into my last big thing with the movie overall, and quite simply and effectively, high frame rate 3D is fucking terrible, man. Like, I'm sorry, it looks pretty, but I can't get behind these movies with such terrible projection, which looks way too much like a multi-camera comedy. I feel like I'm watching a sitcom on CBS, and I'm just waiting for the laugh track to start coming and going, like, ha ha, like the canned laughter, that type of stuff here. It's just like, you know, I mean, it feels like I'm watching a live production of these movies with this 3D. It's no wonder why nobody really is using this technology, and I know this was supposed to be kind of like the future of movies in general here, and unlike I think Robert Zemeckis' motion capture plans beforehand were much more interesting than what Peter Jackson was trying to do with high frame rate 3D, and it just didn't work for me in this case here, seeing it on the big screen overall, but I did really enjoy the movie. I still think it's a very solid, entertaining film. It does end everything on a nice note. It's not as good as the other Lord of the Rings movies, but, you know, it's not going to win any Oscars like Return of the King did, but it is still a fun adventure you take the family to see during the holiday season, you know, between Christmas and New Year's, and you have a good time with it. I think this did the commendable job that they were expecting it to do more than the Star Wars prequels did, which kind of basically almost killed the franchise at that point, but, you know, that's just my opinion, but these movies in particular have not done yet. I think they did a very good job of doing what they should be doing, expanding on the story that was set up expanding what's going to happen in the Lord of the Rings movies, not feeling like they're just there to be a cash cow. They did what they needed to do, and I thought they did a commendable job of it. I really enjoy these movies a lot. I think they're very entertaining overall. So let's go ahead and move on to another franchise that ended its run this weekend. The Night at the Museum franchise is back with The Secret of the Tomb.
We're going to London. Let's do it, boys! The magic is on the move.
Must be the wicked being a security guard in America. With your gun, with your silencer, with your ninja swords.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer. Night at the Museum. Secret of the Tomb. Trixie, sit. Steady. Rated PG. December 19th.
It's funny, I was looking up to see if I could find my old review for this, and it turns out I never even did a review on the website for this. I clearly remember a lot from this, but, yeah, Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, so we're going off the cuff here for this one here. I do remember this one, but, yeah, when I walked into this one not really that excited for it because I thought that, you know, the first two movies were fine on their own. The first one was a fun movie. The second one was okay, but nothing really spectacular. And I thought maybe, you know, coming 5 years after the last movie, I thought to myself, okay, this is where the joke is going to get old. It's going to turn into one of these lame sequels that they're clearly doing because there's literally nothing else for it. And then, so I went into this with about as little expectations as I was expecting from the series in general, but I was really surprised that I came out of it kind of enjoying it. I thought it was overall a very enjoyable film. You got Ben Stiller once again returning as a security guard, Larry Daly, who must travel to London to return the tablet of Akhmun-Ra, an Egyptian artifact which causes the exhibits to come to life before the magic disappears. And, of course, you got all the other characters from the previous movies. You have Ben Kingsley joining in on the party along with Dan Stevens. Rebel Wilson's also in here as well. And in addition to that, you also have Robin Williams in one of his last performances before he passed, he did this right before he passed away. This was actually the last thing from him and also Mickey Rooney, who died before this movie came out as well. So, sorry, Night at the Museum Curse maybe, but the funny thing I remember about this movie that was really bizarre was the fact that the villains from the first movie are back in this one. Dick Van Dyke, Bill Cobbs, and Mickey Rooney, but they're the good guys now. I mean, they show up and they're just kind of like, hey, I know we tried to kill you back in the first movie and all that, but we're the good guys now. Just kind of like, it was odd, I'll give it that, but hey, it's good to see those guys on the big screen again one last time, especially Mickey Rooney. And yeah, Robert Williams was really good in here too. The adventure overall, not quite as strong as the previous two movies, but it certainly was a lot better than I thought it could have been. I mean, I was going into it with not a whole lot of expectations overall, but I did come out of it really enjoying it. I will say it does run a little bit too long. It's one of those things where somebody does something, they grab the tablet, they're about to wrap things up here, and then all of a sudden we got to have another climax here, because it's literally a little over an hour after the movie starts. It's just like, this thing's 98 minutes. It's just like, what are we doing here? Why are we filling this up here? And then you got a cameo with Hugh Jackman and Alice Eve, and it just feels really, really weird. It feels really weird to simply have this in here. It's just kind of like, what do we do? Like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we wasting our time with this whole thing? It feels kind of pointless, because nothing really happens after that point overall. It's kind of like, it felt like they tacked that on a little too much here. But I will say it does end on a nice note because you could definitely tell this was them they were clearly ready to wrap this up here, and especially with the last scenes with Robin Williams as Teddy Roosevelt, and this being one of the last films he's in. Yeah, it is a little bit of an emotional moment there, where you see Larry saying goodbye to everybody for the last time, and then they show a nice little climax. So it does a good job of cementing this as kind of the end of this trilogy, and the fact that Larry's story is essentially done here. And I thought it was overall a pretty solid film overall. I mean, it's a decent conclusion to the series in general. They don't do anything to cement a possible sequel or anything. They did do an animated one for Disney Plus, which I never saw. I never heard anything too amazing about it overall, but I mean, it didn't look that bad overall. It was maybe the guy who did the Legend of the Three Caballeros show, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, other than that, though, it's a good conclusion to the series. Nothing too amazing, nothing too spectacular, but certainly could have been a whole lot worse than I was expecting it to be. But it certainly was not that. Just a little scene in towards the third act where it could have easily been cut. You could have trimmed this down a little bit. But other than that, though, I enjoyed it. I thought it was all right. So take that for what you will. But with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here, a movie that I will still defend to this very day, and that is the remake of Annie.
Annie's never gonna find her family. We all have family somewhere.
She'll be staying with Mr. Stacks for a while.
What? Is he nice? I think so. He just doesn't know it yet. Someone just posted a picture of Annie on Twitter. Whoa, my hair's gigantic.
Annie, rated PG.
So yeah, this is one of those movies. Every once in a while, there's a movie that comes along that everybody just despises, just absolutely hates. It's just like, if you like this movie, then you've committed the ultimate sin. You're basically doing the movie equivalent of saying that I'm a Trump supporter, like that type of thing. It's just like, people do not take kindly to specific movies that I cover on here when I actually give them positive reviews, and some good ones. We just had that recently with Ella McKay, which I didn't think was as bad as everyone made it out to be, but yeah, Annie is definitely one of those movies in particular. I remember when this came out, people hated it. They were thrashing it to shreds, and I was the one person coming out there going like, I don't know, I really enjoy this. I actually think it's still better than the original Annie movie, and I don't mind the original 1980s Annie movie. I mean, the soundtrack to that is still good, but I don't know. That to me, that one was just kind of like, it didn't suit me very well, but I just like this one a little bit better. But the Broadway musical returns to the silver screen. Actually, this is the third of 4 adaptations of Annie that they've done, because they did the 1980s one that was released in theaters by Sony, Columbia Pictures, because it wasn't by Sony by then. Then there was the Disney one in the 1990s for ABC, and then there was a 4th one for NBC, which was a live event, which probably got better reviews than this did, but anyway, you have a 10-year-old Harlem foster child, played by Quincy Wallace from Beasts of the Southern Wild, taken in by a calculating billionaire, played by Jamie Foxx, who's taking part in the campaign to be mayor. Abandoned by her biological parents as a baby, Annie Bennett spends every moment of every day attempting to avoid the wrath of her cruel foster mother, Miss Colleen Hannigan, played by Cameron Diaz. But things start to look up for her when she has a very public encounter with Will Stacks. a local cell phone mogul with mayoral ambitions. Stack's campaign isn't going too well until he meets Annie and invites her into his home at the suggestion of his trusted top assistant Grace Farrell, played by Rose Byrne, and his ambitious public relationship advisor Guy Dannelly, played by who Rose Byrne was married to at the time, Bobby Cannavale. I don't know if they're still married or not. I doubt it they are, but we'll see. But I'll do in the research later. But meanwhile, what was originally conceived as a public relations stunt to win over skeptical voters becomes something much more personal when the hard-nosed tycoon realizes his little friend is much more than a mere good luck charm. And they just do the research, and they are still together after 14 years. They've been together since 2012. So hey, good on you guys. But like I said, I mean, I don't hate the original Annie. I just think it's just kind of meh. The only thing I always take from it is it has one of my favorite songs in there, "Tomorrow," which is a great song. I mean, the music overall in Annie is really good. I think the biggest problem with the original Annie movie to me was that it was way too over the top, like a Broadway show. I mean, yeah, it's based off of a Broadway musical, but it doesn't need to be this peppy and happy. I mean, West Side Story, I think, is a prime example of how to do a Broadway musical for a new generation, for a modern generation, and do it well. And I'll delve more into my problems with the original in a little bit here, but I went into this like everybody else, very much expecting not a whole lot. The trailers really didn't sell the movie very well. Cameron Diaz looked very obnoxious as Hannigan, and I thought like everybody else, man, this is going to be terrible. But I went into it with an open mind, and lo and behold, I did come out of it really enjoying a lot of it. I really did think the remake was a better version than the original film was. I think it did give you a reason to give a crap about Annie. They gave her a personality that isn't just about being over the top or constantly talking about hoping to find her parents all the time. I mean, they did a great job of casting her, too. It would have been so easy to cast one of Will Smith's daughters in this because of the fact that he's one of the producers on this, and of course they had success with The Karate Kid, and I really thought they were going down that pathway, but no, they went with the girl from Beast of the Southern Wild, Quintanilla Wallace, who I thought was really good as Annie in this. I thought Jamie Foxx and Rose Byrne were really good. I like Bobby Cannavale playing kind of like the cartoonishly style villain in this. Cameron Diaz, I think, really was the one big surprise that, I mean, everyone thought I myself included, thought I was going to really hate this woman in this performance in this, and she was not as bad as I thought she was. Don't get me wrong, she's the worst person in the cast, but she was not as annoying as she could have been. Those trailers made her more obnoxious than she is in the movie. I mean, it's not Miss Hannigan. I think Carol Burnett did that role better, which I'll give up that as one of the few compliments to the original film. I mean, it's a good performance, but pales in comparison to everybody else in the movie. I thought the music overall was really good. There was a lot of musical numbers that were nicely done. There were a couple of covers that I didn't think were all that great, like Little Girls and I Think I'm Gonna Like It Here, I thought were pretty bad. And the film doesn't fall into the stupid kids movie cliches by throwing in pointless gross-out jokes. There's one, but it is very, very brief. But, I mean, a movie like this that doesn't do that, I got to give it extra points for that. But in terms of following the story, I think it did a very good job of following a lot of the story from the musical and the original film and took out all the elements that felt unnecessary. I mean, I'm one of the few people that actually is defending this movie, and I don't really care. I really do like the fact that the movie was not as bad as everyone made it out to be. I've listened to so many reviews when this was coming out saying it was a disaster, was one of the worst movies of the year, and I'm telling you, that is a load of bullshit because people did not see stuff like Lucy or Transcendence or, you know, all these other movies we touched on, Exodus, Gods and Kings. I mean, those are much worse movies. There have been much worse movies for kids. And people have one of the big complaints about the movie is that the musical numbers are auto-tuned BS and that the casting of Wallace was horrible, and neither of that really bugged me at all. The musical numbers do have auto-tune, but by some, I mean very little. And as I said, Wallace is great as Annie, and don't forget, we almost had Willow Smith as Annie. I said that before, but, I mean, just be glad we got her as Wallace as this, because this is definitely much better than having Will Smith's daughter playing this role. If there is any complaints about this movie that I will have, I will say that the final climax stretches itself out a little too much. The one in the original with Tim Curry and Bernadette Peters being the fake parents of Annie, I mean, it was unusually action-packed and just kind of felt out of place. But at least it was something it was something that kept the audience invested. Here, it's just stupid because people just simply take pictures of Annie because of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They're able to find her so quickly, and it's just kind of like they're stretching. no, it's like they're stretching, and nobody, when they take these pictures, thought to themselves, gee, this girl isn't really smiling in any of these photos. Maybe something isn't right here. They're just kind of like, oh, hey, it's Annie. Let's take a picture with our phones. It's just like, I mean, I get it. You have to sell it to a modern audience, but that's pushing it way too far. And I guess you can't really make the climax of Annie interesting. I'll give the original the credit for at least being more entertaining than this one is. This just really felt like people were a little too stupid for their own good for this whole second sequence here. But again, it may be because I wasn't the biggest fan of the original Annie movie, but I can't help it. I did like this remake more than the original film. Do I think it's a classic, one of the best movies of 2014? No. It's a good family film. It's harmless. It doesn't offend me. It wouldn't offend the target audience for this movie, and I really do think it's a good film to take families to, and would definitely get a good time out of it, especially with the lack of a strong musical like we had the previous year with Frozen. I mean, this thing could easily fit that bill overall, and audiences did go out to see it. It did become a hit at the box office. It was a big hit, making over $136 million on a budget of $78 million. So it has received, and it has received much better appreciation over the years in general. Like, it went from a 28% Rotten Tomatoes to having sort of a reappraisal over the last couple of years as a movie that actually is pretty worth it overall. I mean, I think it is a very good remake that definitely deserves a lot more attention. And yeah, I'm glad that I can do a show like this to get people out there to see that, hey, this movie actually is really good. Don't let the trailers fool you. This was a really good movie, and one you should definitely check out. I highly do recommend checking out the remake of Annie. Even if you do like the original, you can still find a lot of merit in this, even if you have to compare it to the original. It's a good movie. I really do enjoy it. I'm going to be one of those people that does hold it much better than most people did at the time, and I'm glad to see that it is getting a reappraisal over the last couple of years. I hope it continues, because it is definitely a film that deserves a lot more attention than it got back then. I highly recommend it. Check out Annie if you haven't seen it. Alright, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and next time we wrap up 2014 with a lot of big holiday releases. We have another big musical coming out this weekend, coming out this holiday season. Disney's Into the Woods, featuring a cast that includes Meryl Streep, Emily Blunt, Anna Kendrick, James Corden, Chris Pine among its cast. We also have Angelina Jolie directing her first feature film, Unbroken. Actually, that might not be true or not, but it's her first big mainstream release. But we also have Mark Wahlberg starring in Rupert Wyatt's The Gambler. Interesting follow-up for the director of War for the Planet of the Apes. We also have Tim Burton's latest film, Big Eyes. We have the most controversial movie of the year, which, when you really look at it, it really wasn't, but it was a pretty big deal when Sony Pictures decided to pull off of this big holiday release they had for The Interview, the new Seth Rogen, James Franco movie, and we'll touch on that coming up on the next episode. It did get a release, but not as big as they were originally intending to do so, but we'll touch on that controversy a little bit later on. We have one of the biggest, we have what ended up being the biggest movie of 2014, gross-wise, Clint Eastwood's American Sniper with Bradley Cooper, and we have one of my favorite movies, if not, I think my favorite movie of the year, Ava DuVernay's Selma. So a lot of movies coming your way. 7 big ones coming up. 7? 8, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 7 movies. What am I saying? 7 movies to look at to wrap up 2014, and we'll do that tomorrow here on the show, so stay tuned for that. With all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you guys next time, and I will see you at the movies. I completely butchered that, so let's go ahead and do that again. It's with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. There we go. Good night. Take care.